Welcome back. This is another one of our chats and entrepreneurial conversation series. And today I have the amazing Elke on, and her last name is Feuer, right? Feuer. Okay. Sorry. Elke Feuer. I've only known her for like, I don't know, at least 6 years.
Well, we don't usually call each other by our last name.
Exactly. We really don't. So we have been in communication for a very long time. I've had the privilege and honor of working with her, and an amazing relationship that we've had over the past several years. And I wanted to bring her on. So she helps people to publish books. Traditionally, your clients are nonfiction authors. Right? Is that correct?
No, actually,
fiction. I'm sorry, fiction. I always get that nonfiction confused.
I have worked with nonfiction, but fiction is really my
fiction. Yeah. So fiction authors who are looking to get published, and she actually has published a trilogy, which I recommended to many of my friends. Some of my friends have read it and they love it. If I could sit down and read, I would probably go and read the whole thing as well. Or if you come out with an audio version, because that's how I really read books.
Yeah,
I will be on it.
On the list.
On it. Yeah. Okay. So so we're here to talk about publishing a book and really the process of writing a book, the challenges of writing a book, and how to get yourself published. And, traditionally you work with fiction writers, but I think writers in general and creative people in general run into so many of the same struggles with the blocks and the mindset issues and the, is this good enough? And like being paralyzed for some time in that creative process, which it's a messy process. It's not always linear. Yeah.
It totally isn't. And I think that's where a lot of writers get stuck, is that they think that, oh, I have to take this step, then this step, then this step, and everything has to be perfect, or I have to be ready before I start. And the truth is, you don't. It's like anything, you just start going, because it's such a huge learning curve of everything that you're going to need to learn how to do, whether it's writing, editing, publishing. There's so much. So the sooner you start, the better.
Love it. Love it. So let's talk about that creative process for a second, because I think it's been, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but it's just so tough, like the creative process in general. And I talk about that like when I have written books, when I have been I've been really focused on art for the last year, like even just filling my sketchbook, like that creative process of writing, of getting your creative work out there. How do you think that process works? How is it different? What are some of the things that people, especially in the business sphere, right? They want to publish this book, and that underlying tone is there of like, and I need this to work for my business, or, and I want this to make me more money, or whatever. When that tone is there, I think it muddies the whole creative process. Do you agree with me here?
I would say that's a yes, or a yes and no.
Okay, tell me all about it.
Right. As far as the creative process, one of the things that I recommend for my clients is to actually think about what they want to create before they sit down to create. Because I think that a lot of times we just say, well, I'm going to set aside this time that I'm going to sit down, and then they're staring at a blank screen or a blank canvas.
Yeah.
But instead, what I recommend is to 30 minutes before, or 15 minutes before, even 5 minutes before, that that, hey, I'm coming up on my time to paint. Start thinking, what is it I want to create? And I created this last time. I want to expand on this, or I want to write this character, and this is what they're going to be doing. And just start. And what that does is that actually opens you up and gets those creative juices flowing, so that when you sit down to write, your characters and your muse and everybody is kind of there waiting for you, instead of just sort of in a different mindset and then sit down and expect everything to flow. And for some creatives, that doesn't really work. Some can just say write, and they start writing and it comes. But for others, it just takes that extra prep time, I like to call it, before you can actually just sit down and everything flows easily. So that's the first thing. The other thing I think as well too is a lot of times because art and writing is creative, we tend to think of it as a hobby only. And that can hinder us, because the truth is that when you're at your job, you don't always feel like working, right? But you have to work because you're there to get paid. And when you think of your writing or your creativity as a business, because you do want to make money from it, and this is something that you have to do, that is a huge incentive, especially when you're looking at your bank account and you're like, well, crap, if I don't do this, nothing's going to happen. This is a business, so I have to put in the work, put in the time. And that's not always 100% wonderful, because let's face it, it's creative, and for some people that sucks the creativity out of it. But the truth is, it does take a little bit of a mindset and getting used to that, and focusing. I think another thing that I recommend to clients as well too is that we all like something about the business of why we got into it, not just the creative side, and
Yeah.
doing those components of it to get you excited about thinking of it as a business. Because like for me, I love the planning and I love all of those elements of it, and that gets me excited about doing the parts that maybe I don't necessarily like to do, but I know they need to do. And as you always say, delegate, 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 for somebody else to do it, right? So I think that's why I said sort of yes and no, as far as thinking of it as just creativity and not thinking of it as a business, because it is an important mind shift to think that yes, it's a creative business, but it's also a business, and I need to treat it that way, especially
That way.
that I want to do as a career, and just getting yourself used to thinking about it that way, and eventually everything will line up.
I so agree with that. So like what I'm thinking back to is a time in my life, like it was around 2015, 2014, when I read the book GoPro. The book GoPro.
I've never
That's
read it,
okay. It's at the time I was working like selling a network marketing product. And so it was like one of those things that like it was always recommended by the upline, like this is how you're going to get professional and actually do what you're supposed to do here. And one of the mindsets was that you need to look at this as a career, right? You're not going to like say not show up to work, right? Like you're not just going to like tell your boss you're going to be there and then not show up. You would never do that. Right. And it's no wonder, even though it's difficult in a creative place to show up when you have no inspiration in quotes, right?
Right.
Or that you don't feel like you're just not in a good place to be creating. When you force yourself to do that, you actually show up for your craft, show up with the level of commitment for what you're there to do. And that it just shows through. And I feel like those are the moments that I actually have had most exponential growth in the business side, in the art side, when it comes to writing the book. Like anything that I have tried to go do, and then I actually say I'm going to do it, then I show up for that. It always has such a positive like ripple effect that you're right. It is an extremely positive thing. I was thinking more of the mindset of like, I need this to make me money. I don't think that's healthy. I just want to put that out there. I don't think that's healthy. So a lot of people will be like, I need this content. And I'm thinking specifically about content writing, right? Like when you're making your posts for social media and you're like, I need this content to make me money. Like that is such an unhealthy mindset and space to get yourself into. And thinking that that's going to work like that is really hindering creativity, because nothing good is going to come out when you're thinking that like this post is going to be the make or break of your business. That's the pressure I'm talking about that I think is negative. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I think one of the things And it's so ironic that we're talking about this because I've been thinking about this the last few days because, one of my mindset struggles that you helped me through that is finally starting to manifest itself is just releasing the outcome. And,
Yeah.
that fear and that necessity that this content has to be it rather than just enjoying the process and saying, I'm going to share this content with my people and it's going to be amazing and I'm going to connect with them. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And that's okay. You know what? There's going to be more content, more things. Because like you said, otherwise you just get into that scarcity and that whole thing. And that just sucks away so much of your joy and just everything. So absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, what are the challenges for writing a fiction book specifically, since that is your area of expertise? And how have you seen that kind of translate into maybe business or other areas so people can have some lessons from what you do?
Yeah, sure. I think, and I really had to think about this because honestly, with just in the clients that I've dealt with, it's a little bit different for everybody. But I think the key ones that sort of popped out at me was they don't necessarily they're not consistent with what they're doing as far as writing to be able to finish the book, because there's a lot of people that start, but they don't actually finish, or they're not consistent with putting a book out. And I know I've struggled with this myself. And that boils down to not really having a writing routine, whether it's every day or once a week or whatever it is. And also just not learning how to deal with their mindset. I know that
Mm-hmm.
stretches across everything because I think if you don't know how to deal with when writer's block comes up and when those challenges come up and not knowing how to deal with that, that can really create a huge challenge, regardless of whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction. And I think we talked about thinking of writing as a hobby. That's a huge one. We talked about that as well. And I think another thing is not having support. I think a lot of times writers think that they have to, I'm writing and I'm writing this book and I have to do it all on my own. When the truth is that there's a wonderful community of support that's there to help you. And I know that I wouldn't be where I am with my writing without that support. And I think that the misconception that I have to do it alone is sometimes what keeps writers from moving forward. And it's a huge challenge for them, and just releasing that and just saying, hey, you know what? There's a community there and I need to take advantage of it, whether that's with a coach or whether that's just fellow writers. Just, I think those are probably for me, I've seen some of the biggest challenges. And also, I think not learning about the industry and the
Mm.
genre that they write. And not to say that you shouldn't put out something there that you want to read yourself, absolutely, but there's still a lot of elements about the industry that you need to know and you need to learn about. And I think that creates a challenge because it can seem like so overwhelming. Like, I just want to write, I don't want to do anything else. But unfortunately, there's a lot of things that go along with it. It's kind of like running a business. You just want to do the part that you enjoy of why you started the business. But unfortunately, there's these other things as well, too, that if you don't deal with them and you don't learn how to manage them, they will create challenges for you in so many ways.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, let's unpack that one. Because that is huge. So um the mindset piece, 1,000%. That goes for every single thing. Your thoughts
Absolutely.
will make or break every single result that you ever try to go after.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
It's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um and then I think too, especially with writing, it's like there's this societal expectation that you go off into a cabin and close the door and you come out with the book.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Like, and what you're saying is it's a routine and it's a habit
Yes.
that you develop,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that for me, one of the things that I try to instill in my children so that they get this, like, just because this is what I do all day. I am doing coaching, right? And it's all about habit formation and really making sure that we are looking at behavior changes, small doable things that we're doing that's ultimately that's behavior change. It's not some big fantasy time in a future land somewhere where the heavens part and
Yeah,
everything gets done, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, like that day is not coming.
Yes.
It happens through the small incremental habits that we develop throughout our life and building them in to what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just to touch on that a little bit more, too many people think, okay, I got to change this habit, and they try to change like every single
Every
thing.
habit.
Yeah, guilty.
Yeah, totally been guilty of that one.
But I found that the ones that make the biggest impact is when you just say, okay, I want to change this habit. Like for instance, just something simple, keeping my bathroom counter clear. Like I usually have so much crap all over it, and then I don't want to clean the bathroom because, and then I just got
It's
myself
yeah,
into the habit. Every time I'm there, before I walk away, put everything away. It's something
yeah,
simple. It takes less than 5 minutes, and it's been months, and my bathroom counter has stayed clear. Just that one little thing, and then I've just added other little things that I want to do. And like you said, it's those small things that eventually make the biggest impact long term. It really help you to get through those difficult challenges and get to where you want to go. And like you
yeah.
said, and then the heavens will part and everything.
Exactly. And I think you can stack those little things upon each other, right? So if you say for 2 weeks, I'm just going to work on this one micro habit, right? By the end of 2 weeks, you'll have so many more reps under your belt for it.
Yeah.
Um, the other day we were talking at dinner with my kids about like practice makes perfect. They're like, practice makes perfect. I'm like, and my son, he's 7. He comes to me, he's like, I don't think this is right. They say that practice makes perfect, and I don't think that this is right because you can be practicing the wrong thing. And he was like, I'm like, where on earth did you even come up with this? He's like, because I was practicing my football like this and then it was wrong. And then I was like, oh my gosh, you're like a life coach in the future. um, However, what I said is, does practice really make perfect? And is this really the truth? Because if we think, I can practice and then be like, so I gave the example. If I practiced drawing 5 times, am I now able to draw anything? Right? Am I perfect at drawing? No. And he's like, absolutely not. And I'm like, exactly. So practice itself doesn't even really make something perfect, or doesn't even those tiny habits, right? So let's work on getting the right tiny habit that is what is going to move you towards but not overwhelm.
Right.
Number one. And then number two, remembering that we got to keep doing it and then build on top, right? So once that becomes easy and doable, it just becomes part of who you are. Then you can add more and more to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the same is true of writing. The more you write, the better you get. The more
Yes.
you publish, the better you get. The more books you launch, the better you get at launching. It's like anything.
Yeah. And it's just like, sales, managing a business, managing employees, marketing, like it goes, that's why it all comes down to these very fundamental basics, right? And being willing to step up to that plate every time and be like, oh, I got off track, right? I just reintegrated my fitness and my workouts back in.
Yeah.
And it had been a long time. I was off with that, and getting back into my boot camps and doing it 3 times a week. I'm like, wow, it has been so much of a struggle to get myself there. And now knowing, okay, well, I tried it 20 times this way and I couldn't keep that habit. So how can I, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are the little things? And knowing that those reps actually are helping you if you're willing to learn from them. They don't mean anything about your future. They only show you what didn't work for you, and you can take those lessons.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that boils down to, too many times you try a habit and, oh, it didn't work, so that's not for me. Well, okay, that's
Yeah.
true. But then let's try it a different way and a different way until you find something that does work for you. That's, I think, important as well too.
Yeah. Love that. Okay. So, and lastly, let's talk about publishing books for a second.
Mhm.
So how, like you said, the more that you do book launches, the better you get at it, right? So is it, I mean, that basically tells me the first time we're going to go out there and publish a book, it's not going to be perfect, which scares me.
Yeah.
So talk about that for a minute. How do you go out there and do that and feel good about the results, the process, etc.?
Yeah. I recently watched a training, and it really opened up my eyes, because before I watched this, I was kind of like, okay, I'm all about having a system and a process for how you launch, and this is how you do it each time for each book. But the truth is that there's different types of launches to do. And I think
Mm,
being open to that and not thinking that, okay, this is how you launch this book and this is how it's going to be. It's really about looking to say, okay, this is the book that I have. This is when I want to launch it. What is the best strategy for me? Is it like a short game? And what does that look like? What's going to work for me? Or
yeah.
is it sort of a long game, 2 years, and that's a better process for me?
Mm,
What are all those components of, okay, do I want to get experts? Do I want to, just use my list? There's so many different things. And I think people think there's just one way to do it. And there really isn't. There's so many different ways. And I think it's just a matter of looking at what is going to work best for you this launch with this book. Instead of feeling like it has to be this way. Oh my gosh, I can't even begin to tell you. But there was 4 different types of launches, and I'd never thought about it that way before. I mean, I know every book launch is slightly different, but that was just such an eye opener for me. And it also sort of released a little bit of the stress of thinking it has to be this way all the time and I have to do all the things.
yeah.
That was great. And just finding the strategies and tactics that worked for me and that I felt comfortable with and that I had access to as well too. Like, I don't have access to necessarily experts that other people would have, right? So, and beating myself about that's not helping my launch.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that has been an eye opener for me as far as launching and how I look at launching my book.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
No, absolutely.
All right. So where can people find out more about you if they either are trying to publish a fiction book or know someone who's trying to publish a fiction book? How can they get in touch with you?
They can find me 2 ways. They can find me on my business website, which is www.caywriters.com, or they can find me at elkefeuer.com. Either one, they cross over. So whatever you're looking for, you'll find me at those 2 spots.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. And you do have a YouTube channel, right? Still?
I do. I do have a YouTube channel.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. So have an amazing day, everybody.
Thanks, you too.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and click the like, hit the subscribe, and click on the bell so that you never miss an episode and help our channel to grow and reach more people. I hope you have an impactful day, and I will see you in the next one.